Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, our Simple Abundance Year with Sarah Breathnach and her book, Simple Abundance. This year we've been following through her new updated 2019 edition of the book, and occasionally, if you've been following my channel, that I do pull from her previous version written back in the 1990s called Simple Abundance, A Daybook of Comfort and Joy. The books are very similar, but as I'm cross-referencing them, since this is the first year I'm going through the new 2019 edition, I'm noticing occasionally she will leave out entries from the old book. She has different things to say, but since we're going through the house right now in this section of the book, we've had a lot of decorating and organizing entries, and she did pull out a couple of the rooms but then left out a couple of the other rooms. I am pulling from the older book today. It's actually her June 8th entry, and it's called In Praise of Real Life Dining Rooms. So I took you guys on a tour so far. Let's see, I did my bedroom. You saw my living room. Yesterday was the kitchen. And today I'm sitting at the counter here at my kitchen counter because that's, in a sense, my dining room. I don't have a specific dining room in this place that I live now. I have had dining rooms before in past homes, and certainly in the home that I grew up in. I shared with you yesterday that mainly for our family on a daily basis, we would eat at the kitchen table, which was right off the dining room. But we did have a special dining room growing up, and it was really a special occasion for us to use it. And there was such a ceremony around using it too. I wonder if you also have memories like that. Because the table was a very elegant table, but it was typically the way that it was in the room when we weren't using it. It had these ends of it that folded down. So it was basically very skinny. It was only like a decorative sort of table during, but not like a full table that you could sit down at when it wasn't set up. But then when it was time to get it set up, my mom even had these special pads that she put on it so that you weren't actually putting anything directly on the table. So she would put those pads down, and then the very nice tablecloths made by a family member were put on the top. She had a buffet with a mirror and everything, and she had special drawers that pulled out with special silverware. I'm assuming it was real silver. It was a big collection that she had. I actually have a couple of, we don't have that stuff anymore, but I actually have a couple of the dessert spoons that I use actually on a daily basis. They're long and they have really long handles to them. They're like really delicate for having maybe ice cream or something. So somehow I have those. I don't know what happened to the rest of the silverware. It was probably sold or donated. I don't know. But it was such a big deal to get all that silverware out. And then, of course, my mom had a special set of china dishes. And Sarah talks about in this entry, some of these things are sort of a thing of the past, right? Now, I think in a lot of situations in the modern world, you may be in a Manhattan flat or something like that. And of course, you'll be lucky if you have a table at all, right? That maybe you have to like sit at the toilet and your table is like right there because their square footage is so small. I don't know, but I think that it's a real luxury to have a dining room at this point. And I will say, because I can say this like just about the one that I had mentioned when we were growing up, it was a room that wasn't really used all the time. So it was almost like an ornamental room. And I've done a bit of traveling, and my dad was a history teacher, and we went to a lot of historic sites. And you guys know about my postcard path project where I'm revisiting postcard places, and a lot of those are historic sites. So even just last year, a couple of the places that I went to, I was touring some really old houses, and I mean like 17, 18th century houses. And the dining room was really, it was the statement room. It was definitely something that the rich people had, and maybe they had a piano in there, or it was really like a big deal. And of course they would get their china from overseas, and so it was a show-off room, and that can be the case in some respects. Sarah talks about the fact in this entry, when she was writing back in the 90s, or maybe however long it took her to get the book published, whenever she was writing this, so sometime before the 90s when she published it, that their dining room table was very much used. It sounds like her room, she had bookshelves in the dining room for her cookbooks and things like that. So it wasn't merely decorative. It was very well used. I wonder if you guys have a dining room and whether it's a place that you use. Maybe you've even converted it into another, like a sitting room or something, because you don't really entertain much. I think back to the times that, like in this place I said, I have a folding table if I had people over and we needed a place to sit, but I don't have an actual nice dining table, which I had for a long time, that I was moving around to various places that I've lived, and I always had a place. Sometimes it was in the kitchen, but I always had a place for a table, but I just was rarely sitting at it. Yeah, of course I would if someone was visiting, but I am more apt to sit here at my counter. This is very casual, and of course I have to turn around to see the TV, but I can hear the TV if I put it on. So I'm definitely using my countertop a lot, and I showed you guys in a video back in February that I like to have it set up fancy with glasses and everything. Right now for the patio I have my special tray, and that's sort of the focus of the countertop, but I treat my countertop, I suppose, the way I would for a dining room table, where I like to have a seasonal table runner and flowers, and so I do make it ornamental, but it's very much in use. But I will say, like I said, in the past, if I had a dining room, one of the places that I lived about 15 years ago, we did have a separate dining room, and we never used it. It just was there. It was like, chandelier, usually very nice room, but basically just purely decorative. And then you have to clean it and dust it and everything. But in a lot of those cases, there would be another place to eat, like another sort of off the kitchen casual table. I guess that's more my speed. I don't feel like a lack of having a dining room, but I think Sarah makes a good point that if you have one, that it's great to use it if you can. Let me read if there's anything I want to say here. Much more than eating takes place here, she says. Newspapers are read, mail is sorted, conversations are started, homework is completed, bills are paid, cakes are iced, income taxes are computed, flowers are arranged, games are played, confidences are shared, family and friends are gathered. Here at the replica of the Greek goddess Hestia's round hearth, remember we talked about Hestia? Rites of passage are commemorated, holidays are celebrated, daily grace is offered, minds, bodies, and spirits are nourished. For me, when she's saying that, that would be equal to the kitchen table that I talked to you guys about yesterday. So maybe that was our dining room table, even though it wasn't, because we had a really fancy dining room situation. But I think of all those things that she just listed off as happening at the kitchen table. It was very much a hub of family and discussion, and we played games there. And I have memories of sorting out money that we would save for our little camping trips in the summer. Because we had banks, and then at one point we'd open it, and then everybody would help count. And I think of eating breakfast there with my mom and her reading the Bible and things like that. So I have much more of a memory of the kitchen table. So maybe that's equating to this dining room that Sarah describes in her house. It's very fashionable at the moment to recommend that families don't really need the separate dining room so revered by our parents and grandparents because we lead such different lives today. Progress comes at a price, and we need to be practical, especially in tiny city apartments and modest suburban condominiums. Instead, trendsetters tell us to let the real demands of our life take precedence over the ideal that's only an illusion. If we're short on space, we should transform a dining room into a library or a playroom or a den. She goes on to say, I don't know why this suggestion seems so chic, especially since our dining room already provides these functions. And then she goes on to talk about how she has her cookbooks in there and everything. She says, our dining room is an all-purpose room. It anchors us all in the morning, in the evening, and in between. The passionate reality of this room, the simply beautiful living that takes place here every day, invokes reverence and begs for preservation. So it sounds like her living room is where all these things that happen in my kitchen with the kitchen table, the table area of the kitchen, that's my description of it. As far as having a separate room, I think that is a luxury that not everybody has right now. Or if they have it, it may be just decorative, like I said. And then she just has some extra thoughts at the end that aren't really anything that I'm going to read. What are you thinking so far as we're going through each of the rooms? Is it bringing up memories of the past? I don't have a tour to take you on today, but I do like sharing all my decorations. I'm thinking about a decorative dining room. And it seems like when I think of a dining room, I think of elegance. So I think of there being lace, or if there are bookshelves, I see things like statuary and trinkets on it. I guess I do think of the dining room, as being decorative. What do you guys think? Do you have a separate dining area from your kitchen, so it's in its own little room? And do you use it, or have you converted it to something else? What do you think? And do you have any memories of special occasions like I do, where you might have gotten to break out the special silverware and napkins? That's when we would use the cloth napkins. I have happy memories of those times. That's why I try to recapture some of those little things in just my daily experience. Like I showed you guys that I had candles going on the counter one time, because Sarah told us at the beginning of the year, life is not a dress rehearsal. And we don't have to necessarily wait for the special times and the company to have a special experience on a day-to-day basis. We can light the candles. We can bring out the fine china. I mentioned I'm selling some things on one of the Facebook yard sale groups, and so I've happened to peruse some of the things. People are selling those china dishes sets now for something like $8 for those things that were just so treasured. And you know, some of those things probably cost $15 a place setting at some time, you know. I'm not going to buy a set because they would just collect dust, and I don't have enough company over. But if I really wanted to, like you saw my kitchen setup, I could probably make it a little bit nicer with some china and things like that. Anyway, share in the comments some thoughts for me about, so far we've done the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, and the dining room. We still have the bathroom. I will take you on a tour of my bathroom because you'll laugh at me, but it's very Carolyn decorated and fun. So I'll take you on a bathroom tour. It may not be until after the weekend, but looking forward also to seeing you I won't be able to see you, but for you guys being there, and then you can see me on Tuesday night, June 23rd, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for our live YouTube Fairy Tea Party. Definitely mark the date. Thanks for watching. I love your comments, so please let me know how you're doing and any comments you may have on the dining room. And I will see you on the next video.